This is the third film in the MCU Spider-Man franchise, yet we still haven't had a proper standalone movie. In each film there's some connection or subplot related to Tony Stark and the Avengers. Holland's Spider-Man often felt like a side character, and No Way Home not only repeats the same mistake as the previous two movies, it makes it even worse by joining two other established and better Spider-Man franchises. The film was doomed to fail behind the director John Watts, a dull filmmaker who has no direction or sensibility. The movie looks colorless, the computer-generated battles look awful, it feels cartoonish, unlike Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films which featured a perfect blend of practical effects and CGI. You can almost feel the punches and the kicks in Raimi's trilogy. The dialogue is also forgettable. The only memorable lines of dialogue are quotes from the Raimi trilogy, so in a way, fan service actually cripples this movie, making it unable to stand on its own legs. What iconic lines of its own did it even have? I'm not really sure anything will stick around other than the fan service lines. Nearly everything is aped from the other Spider-Man movies, even Aunt May's dying words. With great power comes great responsibility. Watching the characters constantly stutter is irritating, and seeing almost every single character display the same type of sitcom humor makes it even difficult to sit through. Something I've noticed in the MCU Spider-Man movies, and the MCU in general, many times characters behave like they're in an SNL skit or like they're waiting for the laugh track. They say something but it's not even a joke, it's just a statement said in a deadpan manner. Then everyone pauses and looks at each other in silence. They're trying way too hard, it's like a fake awkwardness.
I'm in love with Spider-Man's aunt. We're sharing, right?
In Far From Home, the characters are about to be murdered, and this serious moment filled with tension is undercut by an ill-timed, unfunny joke. And this silly stuff continues in No Way Home. Before Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up, the first hour and a half feels emotionally weightless. When you take a look at the MCU characters, you have Ned, who's the comic relief like Flash and other side characters. You have Zendaya's Michelle Jones, who is a cynical smartass. And what they do is poke fun at the sincerity which made Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies so endearing and relatable. It trades insightful and heartfelt moments for sarcasm.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dr. Otto Octavius.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual name?
In the few genuine instances where they attempt to move the audience, it falls flat, because the only depth and emotion given to its characters and story comes from the other Spider-Man universes. Watts and Disney expect mere references to these past characters to be enough to satisfy audiences. And the characters in Holland's universe are so underwritten, last-minute character arcs can't save it. If you look at the death of Marissa Tomei's May, it's reasonable to ask if viewers will even miss her. Her character was reduced to an attractive, cool aunt instead of being a warm and nurturing mother figure who gives Peter sage advice. Stripping away the seriousness Rosemary Harris brought to the character was a huge mistake. In the last two movies, Tomei's May appears to be the most cheerful widow in the world, unbothered by the fact her husband is even dead. In Sam Raimi's iteration, even Marc Webb's to some degree, you can see how much of an emotional impact Uncle Ben made in her life and Peter's too. And despite only appearing in the movie for about 15 minutes, Cliff Robertson's Uncle Ben gave us more depth than what we received from the MCU's Aunt May. Moving on to the politics of the film, J.K. Simmons returns as the rebooted J. Jonah Jameson. The character is updated to mock Alex Jones, host of InfoWars, arguably the most banned person on the internet. Disney's snide judgment towards Jones is nasty, totally mischaracterizing him. Their flippant avoidance of the truth comes across as sinister when you realize Disney owns a number of mainstream news outlets. They want viewers to laugh at alternative media and blindly obey the mainstream media. And at the end of the film, there's a bizarre sequence where Electro tells Peter that he's a good-looking kid with a good heart who helps the poor, but he wishes he was black. It's insane when you really think about it. I couldn't imagine hearing about some guy saving people from murder and rape and being like, damn, I wish he was white. Instead of just empathizing with Peter and recognizing his good deeds, he superficially expresses his wish to find a Spidey who just looks like him. To Electro, race speaks louder than actions. The callbacks are often annoying, but they do work when the film is trying to be serious and thoughtful, not when it tries to pander to fans who are familiar with Spider-Man memes. Recycling previous quotes like, "You know, I'm something of a scientist myself," doesn't do anything to push the story or the characters forward. It feels awkwardly placed, and it's a desperate attempt to capitalize on nostalgia. The best sequence in the movie occurs when they talk about responsibility, and how each one of them cope with the fact that they failed to save someone they love. It's the most human part of the film. Another powerful moment is between MJ and Andrew Spidey, after he saves her life. His emotional facial expression is incredibly heartbreaking. And it was also nice to see Tobey's Peter and Doc Ock finally meet again, and to hear the soulful Danny Elfman score swell in. While it is the best Spider-Man film in the MCU and it manages to end on a great note, the trilogy still feels unnecessary. It doesn't cover any new ground, and it doesn't explore any themes that Sam Raimi and Marc Webb didn't address. Spider-Man 1 was about responsibility, Spider-Man 2 was about sacrifice, and Spider-Man 3 was about vengeance and forgiveness. All of these themes were fleshed out, but No Way Home crams all of these issues into the final 45 minutes. Hell, it took the MCU 3 movies to accomplish exactly what Sam Raimi executed in the original Spider-Man. Holland's Spidey does finally mature, and he makes a selfless decision at the cost of losing what he loves. He's poor, living by himself, has no friends, he's no longer dependent on Stark technology, and he even makes his own suit. But to reiterate, a big problem is it's a rehash. The movie even ends with Spidey doing a final swing, another damn callback to Sam Raimi and Marc Webb. So on the upside, Holland's Spider-Man finally feels like Spider-Man. After 3 movies, he's finally where he needs to be. I'm satisfied with the ending, but the road to this point was uneventful and derivative. It should not have taken until the end of the trilogy for Ironboy Jr. to finally become the character he's supposed to be.